The franchise tag period is officially in the books, and some big-time free agents should be available next week when the new league year opens up. We'll talk about that plus more on Wednesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for March 4th, 2026.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your number one sports podcast network. You know, we're very proud of that. We're also very proud of the fact that this show continues to grow each and every day, and that's because of your support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good by way of the YouTube page. So we salute you, Raider Nation. We also salute my man Ari. You want to find him on Twitter, you can, at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well, at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line for you, 707-654-4693. As we normally do, we'll hear from you. We'll close out the show. Calls, texts, a lot of great feedback, a lot of different subjects. Again, we salute you for being a big-time contributor to the show. So we'll do that coming up in segment number 3. Segment number 2, the conversation that never goes away, at least not yet, right? The Maxx Crosby situation. Will he get traded? Won't he get traded? There is not a rumor, but there's plenty of reports going around right now that the Chicago Bears are the team to watch for Maxx Crosby. A lot of different reports have come out saying that Maxx Crosby wants to be in Chicago. Reports coming out saying Chicago wants Maxx Crosby. And, of course, many different teams do want him. I was checking out the betting odds going into Tuesday, and the Bears were at plus 200 with the Raiders at plus 500 as far as who was going to have Maxx Crosby services in 2026. And then by the end of the day, it ended up being at minus 135 for the Chicago Bears. So that was a lot of movement that happened when it comes to, you know, the betting lines and where Maxx Crosby is going to play. And that's not the end-all, be-all. That doesn't matter and mean that that's where he's going to play because all of a sudden the betting lines moved. But it does mean something. And if anyone who follows, you know, betting and is on FanDuel.com and, you know, checking out March Madness coming up and is part of that, knows that the lines, when they move like that, usually it has there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and you just got to kind of buckle up and watch and pay attention. So I had to go to a source. I went out to my guy, Mark Silverman from Waddle and Sylvie there in ESPN Chicago, covers the Bears like a glove. If anyone's going to know anything when it comes to Chicago, it's him. I had him as a guest on my radio show, so you'll hear part of that conversation when it comes to Maxx Crosby and a couple others in segment number 2. Really good stuff from Mark Silverman, Sylvie from Waddle and Sylvie on ESPN Chicago. Here in segment number 1, news and notes of the day, and it really just has to do with free agency as teams are positioning themselves. They're releasing players. They hit them with the franchise tag on by Tuesday's deadline. They had to make sure that they were in position. Obviously, they're trying to get under the salary cap as well, in position for the new league year opening up next week, March 11th, 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 Pacific time. So the big move that happened on Tuesday, Kyler Murray officially released from the Arizona Cardinals. Now, they're going to try to trade him before the new league year opens, at least agree to a trade with the team. But if not, they're going to release him. Remember, he was the number 1 overall pick back in 2019. So it'll be a new era when it comes to quarterbacks in Arizona. It won't be Kyler Murray, that's for sure. Breece Hall, the running back from the Jets, he got hit with the franchise tag. George Pickens got hit with the franchise tag for the Dallas Cowboys. He's the wide receiver there. Kyle Pitts, the tight end from the Falcons, got hit with the franchise tag. And Daniel Jones, coming off a torn Achilles, got hit with the transition tag by the Colts, and that doesn't happen. Quarterbacks don't get hit with the transition tag. The only other quarterback that's happened to is Jeff George back in the day with the Atlanta Falcons. And all that means with the transition tag is that he can agree to a deal with any team across the league, and the Colts have the right to match it. So that's basically how that goes down. But very much of a surprise as far as I was concerned that Daniel Jones got hit with the transition tag. So what does that mean? There's a lot of really good free agents that look like they're going to be available come next week when the legal tampering period opens up on Monday. And, of course, the actual league year opens up on Wednesday, March 11th. So who's some guys that the Raiders should be interested in? Well, the number 1 guy is Tyler Linderbaum, the center from Baltimore. We've talked about him quite a bit this offseason. We know that the Raiders need to go ahead and reconstruct that offensive line. He's actually number 2 on ESPN's top 100 free agent list for 2026. He's only going to be 26 years old when the season starts, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for guys that are no older than 27. That's kind of the sweet spot. You're looking at guys that are going to be impactful free agents, not just the guys that are going to get the 1-year deal, the 2-year deal. I'm talking about the guys that are going to hit with the 4-year deal, the 5-year deal, and they're going to get some big-time money. Linderbaum's going to get big-time money, like $22 to $24 million a year. He's going to get a ton of guaranteed money, whether it's with the Raiders, with the Ravens, or anyone anyone else. He's going to have plenty of suitors once the league year opens up and once the legal tampering period opens up. So 26 years old to me is a really good age group for these guys that are going to get these impactful deals. Linderbaum, 97.2 pass block win rate percentage, tied for second among 31 qualifying centers last season. So he's number 1 on my list, number 2 on ESPN's top 100. Alec Pierce, the wide receiver from the Colts, he'll be 26 years old when the season starts as well. Number 4 on ESPN's top 100 list. He went over 1,000 yards last season on less than 50 catches. 21.3 yards per catch to be exact. Ended with 1,003 yards and 6 touchdowns. I highlight him. I didn't think he was going to become available. Thought the Colts were going to put a full court press to make sure that they brought him back, but instead they transition tagged Daniel Jones, meaning they couldn't use any other kind of tag on any other player, so he couldn't hit him with the franchise tag, and looks like Alec Pierce is going to get out of town. You want to talk about a guy who, one, has really good hands and is averaging 21.3 yards per catch. You think that wouldn't be good for Fernando Mendoza or this Clint Kubiak offense in general, no matter who the quarterback is? That would be a really good target to match up with Brock Bowers, to match up with a guy like Michael Mayer. You also have Trey Tucker still, Jack Bech from last year, Dante Thornton. All of a sudden, your weapons that you have available look a lot better. Of course, Ashton Genty in the backfield. So Alec Pierce is a guy that I definitely pay attention to. He's not going to get the above $30 million a year contract, but he's going to get a nice, hefty contract out there on the open market. Defensively, Devin Lloyd, the linebacker from Jacksonville, he'll be 27 when the season starts. He's actually ranked number 16 on ESPN's top 100. 5 interceptions in 2025, 1 return for touchdown. Guys that take the ball away, right? I hate to say that like I'm clapping at you in the argument, like, guys that take the ball away, got to have them. But that's what the Raiders need to do. They need to have guys that take the ball away. They have not had enough of those over the years. Devin Lloyd is one of those guys that can do that. So that's obviously someone I'm paying attention to. Odafe Owe, the edge from the Chargers, he'll be 27 when the season starts. Number 6 on ESPN's top 100. 7.5 sacks and 27 pressures for the Chargers after the October 7th trade from the Ravens. And 3 sacks in the Chargers wildcard loss to the Patriots. So he had 10.5 sacks after he got traded from the Baltimore Ravens. This was after October 7th. So all he is a professional quarterback getter, right? See quarterback, get quarterback. That's what Odafe Owe does. Not to mention, he's got a good relationship with Robbie Leonard, who's the Raiders' new defensive coordinator, going back to their time in Baltimore. So that's a guy I can see the Raiders having a lot of interest in. Sticking with the defensive side of things, I already mentioned one linebacker in Devin Lloyd. How about Nakobe Dean? 25 years old when the season starts. He's 44th ranked on ESPN's top 100. Sideline to sideline linebacker. He's healthy now. He had knee injuries in 2024 that hampered him, but now he's back to being that guy, and he's labeled as the best blitzing linebacker in the NFL. And so if you're going to the 3-4 defense, obviously you're going to need linebacker help. All your linebackers from E-Rob to Jamal Adams to Devin White, all are free agents. Who you have? Cody Lindenberg, Tommy Eichenberg. Both guys could play. There's no doubt about it, but they're going to need help, whether in the draft or free agency or a combination of two. They're definitely going to have to go ahead and revamp that linebacking room. Nakobe Dean could be a guy of interest for sure. And one more guy I have for you, then we'll get to segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Nashawn Wright, the cornerback from the Bears. He'll actually be 27 when the season starts. He's ranked number 33 on ESPN's top 100 list, and you'll see he's got the same traits that Devin Lloyd had for Jacksonville in 2025. 5 interceptions and a pick 6. So similar to Devin Lloyd. Matter of fact, exact same stats. Those were all career highs. He wasn't even a guy that was expected to be a starter originally. He got slid in there, and all he did is make the most of it. Now, it was a contract year, and I say it all the time. Sometimes you got to be cautionary when it comes to a contract year because guys could just ball out and then all of a sudden get comfortable and not be that guy again. But with his length at 6'4" and 199, I feel like he's just really starting to come into his own. As a matter of fact, Mark Silverman from Waddle and Sylvia on ESPN Chicago, I actually asked him about him after I was done asking him questions about Maxx Crosby and what he believes could be an opportunity of Max ending up in Chicago when it's all said and done. You'll actually hear that conversation coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about one of the great sponsors we have here on the show, and that is Betterhelp. March is a time to celebrate women, especially around International Women's Day, and to recognize just how much they carry at work, in relationships, in families, on all in unseen roles they step up in every single day. It's easy to celebrate that strength, but it's just as important to make space for their emotional well-being. And honestly, that's going to go for all of us. So You could think about your mom, you could think about your sister, and think about how she carries herself and how she carries so many others, and really is the backbone of most families, right? We know how moms do it. With over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 6 million people served worldwide, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, and it works. All you got to do is fill out a quick questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and if it's not the right fit, guess what? You can switch at any time. Your emotional well-being matters. Find support and feel lighter in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Time to get into the conversation about Maxx Crosby. I know some folks, a lot of folks, including myself, are tired of it. It's the conversation that won't go away until there's some kind of resolution, and hopefully it is a resolution sooner rather than later, but until it is, we have to continue to update it. Before we get to that, though, I do want to remind you that free agency is here, and so are we. Get 1 month free of the Everydayer Club with code FREEAGENCY, no spaces, now through March 15th. Go ad-free and keep this conversation going on Discord. Join the club at lockedonraiders.supercast.com. I got to get to a conversation, a really good conversation with Mark Silverman from Waddle and Sylvia on ESPN Chicago on Tuesday on my radio show. Joined the show to talk about what he's hearing and the sense he's getting when it comes to the Maxx Crosby front, and could he potentially land in Chicago? Check out that conversation.
I think it's Q, and it's great to talk to you again. You guys probably know a lot as well, and this is all just by going by gut feeling. I feel like there's a lot of smoke there, and I feel like Max wants to win. And why not hitch your wagon to a coach like Ben Johnson and a quarterback that he obviously is looking at and saying, "Oh, I believe in this guy." I saw him up close and personal, and I guess they formed a bit of a friendship here. We played a lot of the podcast, but I was following along too, Q, during the season where he would go out of his way, it seemed to me, to really bring up Caleb and to say a lot of good things. So if you're him and you do want out of Vegas, and I know that he is beloved by Raider fans, and this is a guy who obviously loves being a Raider, why not go to a place like Chicago where the arrow is completely going up?
The conversation that we keep hearing is that the Raiders are willing to listen, and if they're going to move him, it would be for a king's ransom. So, Sylvie, what do you feel like the Bears would honestly be willing to give up for Maxx Crosby?
It's a great question, Q, and I've been pro Maxx Crosby. Waddle, my partner, is more pro Trey Hendrickson. When you start talking about a king's ransom, that's where I stop. Now, I'm going to give you his fair due and what I feel like he's worth to me. But if when I started hearing when Glazer first brought this up, I think it was Jay Glazer, who had it first around the Super Bowl, saying he thinks his time in Vegas is done, but they're going to want the Micah Parsons deal. And to me, I just summed it up this way, and I love Maxx Crosby. I want him to be a Bear as a Bears fan. I am not Micah Parsons was healthier, Micah Parsons was younger, and Micah Parsons was more productive when he was traded from Dallas to Green Bay. So if I'm the Bears or Dallas or the Bills or any of these teams who could be interested in him, why would I give up what Dallas got from Green Bay? It just is a non-starter to me. You could counter-propose to me, but I've discussed, I'll give you a first-round pick. I'll give you a 2027 second-round pick. And if you want a player as well, I'm open to DJ Moore. I'm open to Tremaine Edmonds. But that's pretty much where I'm topping out at right now if I'm the Bears.
Knowing the Bears like you do, how do you think that they would approach giving up some draft capital or giving up trade compensation? What do you think they'd be willing to do?
Yeah, I think in that neighborhood, I think they've always been snoopers. They're a snooping team who they checked in, I know for sure, on Myles Garrett last year. They were interested in that. It's really been a problem for the Bears. You've watched them probably from afar. You saw them in that one game. The Raiders should have won that game. But their defense isn't that good. They lived and they died by the takeaway. And we know how that goes, Q.
Yeah.
You just can't rely on that. Even if you're a pretty good team, from one year to the next, if you've led the league in takeaways, that's going to come back down to earth one of these days. And the Bears just don't create enough pass rush. Montez Sweat is a pretty good player. He's no Maxx Crosby. So I know they're very, very interested in him, but they could also pivot to Trey Hendrickson, who played under Dennis Allen. You guys know him well as a former Raider coach. Jalen Phillips is a free agent. They could still draft and develop. But I'm all about when there's an opportunity to get a superstar like Maxx Crosby, and you guys know this well. Not only is he a star, not only is he going to help your pass rush, he's a guy who plays over 90% of the snaps. He's going to stop the run. He's a high motor guy. He's a leader in the locker room. He checks every box for a person that I want on the Chicago Bears roster that they lack right now on the defense.
I agree 100%. He's all that you just mentioned and then some, and especially that leadership in the locker room on and off the field. He is fantastic. Again, Mark Silverman, part of Waddle and Sylvie on ESPN Chicago with us here. Well, we found out earlier today about the center retiring. How does that impact all of this, if at all?
No, it does. So Drew Dolman is only 27 years old. You texted me a little before that, and the high topic today was going to be Maxx Crosby and how you solve the pass rush. And then all of a sudden your 27-year-old center, who you just signed to a 3-year, $40 million deal in the offseason, retires on you. Caleb Williams will be playing with his third center in 3 years. They finally were getting some cohesion and chemistry on the offensive line. They traded for Jonah Jackson last year. Joe Tooney was a steal for a 4th-round pick. So they finally solved a lot of the offensive line. They don't have a left tackle right now, and now they don't have a center. Tyler Biadasz was in the building today, so it tells you that they've known about Dahlman for a little bit. He was just released from the Commanders. So maybe if you can make that move and not let him leave the building, you're fine. But what I was most disappointed about, and I hope, look, I'm talking about football level stuff. I hope Drew Dolman's okay. I hope there's nothing wrong with him. Yeah. And this is just a guy who wants to get out of football, or there's nothing wrong with his family to retire at 27 years old. But hopefully if they could sign a center, then you just slide over the piece and it doesn't hurt you. The Bears have to create a lot of room, Q. They don't have a lot of room right now. So, I think DJ Moore is a very interesting piece. I don't know if you guys would be interested in him or not at the cost, at what he's going to cost on the salary cap.
Right.
But they're going to have to make some decisions on how they clear out their salary cap before they can start wheeling and dealing. But getting back to your original question, too, Ron Bowles is a guy who is not scared to make the big move. The Bears, they did it with Montez Sweat. They did it with Chase Claypool, even though he was a huge bust. They did it with Joe Tooney last offseason. He made the big deal for Caleb Williams when they got rid of Justin Fields and they traded out of the number 1 spot a year before that. So the Bears are all about making big plays, and I think that this could be a real thing with the Bears and the Raiders.
Well, Sylvie, we'll close out with this. Nahshon Wright, a guy that was responsible for a lot of the turnovers their defense created, is a free agent. Was that a contract year type situation for him, or is that really who he is moving forward?
I think it's a blossoming year. He was not highly thought of. He was a guy on the Vikings who had a lot of the attributes. His story is amazing, Q. I don't know how closely you followed it. His coach was his junior college coach on that Netflix show.
Coach Beam.
Last
Coach Beam.
Chance U.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coach Beam.
You guys know.
Yep.
Yeah. And he was tragically murdered.
Yep.
He was with Nahshon Wright a week or two before that. They were walking down Michigan Avenue. And what a story Nahshon Wright was. He is long. He is athletic. He's not the best cover corner, but some of his athletic interceptions, if you remember the Black Friday game when the Bears were in that window where it was only them and the Eagles, he had on the tush push, he forced the fumble. He peanut punched it out. So this is a guy. Now, Al Harris was his position coach, and we've seen, with Dallas and now the Bears, a lot of these corners find ways to have their best years with interceptions. but he's a great kid. He's athletic. I think really good football's in front of him. So if you wanted to take a chance on a guy, I wouldn't pay top dollar for him. Okay. But if he's a guy you could get at a decent price, I love what he did for the Bears.
So there you go. Really good stuff from Sylvie, one of the best in the business, ESPN Chicago. And if there's anything Bears related that I need to know, that's going to be my go-to guy. It's always great to catch up with him. Hopefully it was a little bit insightful. He's team Maxx Crosby. He's also team not give up the farm for Maxx Crosby. And again, it sounds very much like the Raiders want to make sure that they get a great haul in return if, in fact, they're going to move from Maxx Crosby. And, right, I mean, he's a guy that's a leader on and off the field. It's hard to replace that just saying, oh, these draft picks are going to replace that. So you really have to think hard and strong about that before you make that decision. I've been very adamant from every show and every platform that I've been on that I don't think it's going to happen, but there's so much smoke behind it. You just can't ignore it and act like, well, there's nothing to see here, because clearly there's something to see here until there's not. Coming up in segment number 3, we'll hear from you. Your calls and texts will close out the show. 707-654-4693.
Hey, it's Matt Derry from the Locked On Lions podcast. The people I love depend on me. If I'm gone, the financial responsibilities don't disappear. I didn't want my family figuring things out during the hardest moment of their lives. That's why I knew only one place to go. I chose life insurance through my friends at Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. I love the folks at Ethos. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get the free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. That is ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Application times and rates may vary.
Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts. You're off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. We'll get into that in a hot minute. Before we do that, though, I do want to thank you so much for making this the first listen of the day. Let's go ahead and hear from our guy, Fred in Bakersfield. He's calling to talk about Fernando Mendoza and the chances of him starting week 1 and the organization not failing the quarterback. Here's Fred in Bakersfield.
Hey, what up, Q? It's Fred from Bakersfield, man. I really hope that Fernando Mendoza just comes in and balls out to where he forces the Raiders to start him week 1. I'm tired of hearing this, oh, we need to sit him, we need to bring in Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, all this other nonsense, man. I hope that Fernando Mendoza comes in and establishes himself right from the get-go to where Clint Kubiak's like, you know what? The kid's who we thought he was going to be. You also said, man, that organizations fail the quarterback more so than the quarterback fails the organization. And if we really are about having this dude be our franchise quarterback, it starts now. Spytech and all of them need to put all the pieces that they can this year around him. And then next year, again, put more pieces around him if they really want to be successful, man. But again, I really hope he comes in and just balls out to where he's forcing their hand and being like, you know what, I'm the number 1 pick for a reason. I'm that dude. Go ahead and put me in, and I'm going to lead the Raiders to the promised land. Hey, Q, appreciate you, the whole squad, whole team, man. Y'all be easy. It's Fred from Bakersfield. Go.
Big Fred, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And, yeah, you know, look, he could easily start week 1, right? But it would have to be what you said, that he came in, balled out, showed that he was ready to be the starter in the league. The point is to be understanding that they don't have to play him in week 1. They don't have to play him right away if they feel like he's not ready. They don't have to have that sense of urgency where it's like, no, this guy has to go play right now. They don't have to do that. But, you know, if in fact they feel like he's ready, by all means, go for it, right? But if they just throw him out there, they force him out there for the sake of doing it, that's step 1 in failing the player, right? The organization failing the player. The 3 Ps you have to have, remember this: play caller, protection, playmakers. When the Raiders have that, that's when they should feel comfortable putting Fernando Mendoza out there on the field. Thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Brandon in Henderson. Hey, Q. Welcome back. Only you would travel to Indianapolis for a week of work and return with no days off. Question. It appeared on TV that Mendoza took a fly-on-the-wall approach to his attendance at the combine field activities, which I think was appropriate. What were your observations of his demeanor, maturity, etc.? Stay well. That's Brandon in Henderson. Brandon, great question. And, yeah, no days off, right? I mean, look, I took Saturday once I got back home. I went and got my hair cut, and I was so tired from no sleep in Indy. I was basically falling asleep in the barbershop chair. And then Saturday I was just done. Right, I basically slept the whole day, but we're back at it. That's what we do. This is a labor of love, and we enjoy it. But when it comes to Mendoza and him and the takeaways I had from just observing him, it was great. Right, I really enjoyed what I saw and what I heard when he was at the podium, just the way that he approached and talked to all the media, the way that he was around his guys there. It wasn't about him. It was about everybody, right? Even when he was asked the question, like, what would you say to teams that pass you up if you don't go number one overall? And he's like, I don't blame him. There's a lot of great talent out here. Like he didn't take the bait and and try to say something that was like going to catch a headline. Like he was cooler than the other side of the pillow. I really like Fernando Mendoza. I think he's a team guy, not a me guy. I think he's a guy that's going to try to make sure that he continues to get better and better. Like he's going to be a sponge as far as I'm concerned. And that's the kind of demeanor he shows, to be out there doing the drills, or not going through the drills, but going through the stretches and being out there and supporting his class mates out there on the field at Lucas Oil Stadium. The other quarterbacks are out there. I just think that just shows the kind of guy that he is. So I think the Raiders are going to get a really good quarterback, and they're going to have a good leader as well in that locker room. So thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Jordan in northern Colorado. He's calling to talk about the possibility of Mendoza starting week 1 and why he thinks it's a good idea that he does get that start. Here's Jordan in northern Colorado.
What's up, Q? This is Jordan from northern Colorado calling again. Long-time listener. Appreciate everything you and Ari do. Hey, man, I was just watching the Pat McAfee show, and Daniel Jeremiah was featured on it. And, they're talking about what Dan Orlovsky had to say about Mendoza and Ty Simpson being a better quarterback, X, Y, and Z. I think that's very false, 100%. I think most of the nation would agree. That being said, they got into a conversation about how to turn the Raiders around, and Daniel Jeremiah had a really good point. He said, we already got Colton Miller at one of the tackle positions, going out in free agency and getting some big pieces. Also plugging some guys in from the draft, and in the back of my head, I'm thinking we have some good pieces that we drafted last year that played pretty well along with JPJ when he's healthy. Just listening to what they have to say about Mendoza has got me thinking, and it got me wanting to follow up with you about what you were saying on how Tom Brady doesn't like first-year quarterbacks starting, and I don't know. I think that starting Mendoza week 1 as a rookie, it can only help him. If we have a comfortability with an offensive line, we have receivers, we have a competent defense, if Maxx Crosby stays, it's not going to be pretty. Every rookie's going to make their mistakes. But being able to plug him in, get his feet wet off the bat, and understand how the NFL works, I think it could only help him as long as we don't put his health at stake and injuries. Tell me what you think. Again, thanks again, man. You and Ari are great. Take it easy. Shout out Raider Nation. Peace.
Jordan, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. Similar to what I said earlier, man. If he balls out and proves he's ready to play, all means, right? Go for it. Just don't rush him out there. There's no reason for that. They're not that team that has to do that, and they know that. And Tom Brady, John Spytek, both have alluded to not being in the position where they have to force him out there. And again, if he's ready, go for it. If he's not, just take your time. That's fine. Up next, got a text from Drew in Hesperia. Says, hey, Q, it's Drew from Hesperia. Love the show. You're my favorite, so I got to talk about Maxx. He's got these tattoos of MJ and Kobe and wants to be legendary. Now, I got to say that they never switched teams. They elevated their teams to be champions. I love Maxx, but we'll lose some respect if he wants to be traded. I love everything he's done, but I'm about to shield in the nation, and he's not going to be legendary after a trade. Might as well get LeBron tattooed on himself. Love you, brother. Go Raiders. That's Drew in Hesperia. Well, MJ did end up with the Wizards. There's that. And I'm an MJ guy, but he does have the tattoos. We've talked about it before. MJ Kobe, Muhammad Ali, his daughter, right? And he does want to be legendary. I know how much he respects as he's on Team Jordan, and I understand how much he respects Kobe Bryant as well. Look, he wants to be legendary. He wants to be a Hall of Famer. He wants to be a guy that is playing meaningful games in January, and I get that. Now, I don't think he wants to go to another team. I really don't. My gut feeling, if you gave Maxx Crosby some truth serum and he just sat here and talked with us straight up, I think he would tell you, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to win with the Raiders. I want to win for Raider Nation. They love me. I love them. Maxx Crosby and Mark Davis are super tight. He's a legend in Vegas. He's a legend around the NFL. He's got everything going for him. But I think he also understands that so many players are judged by winning championships or not. And I think that he really, really desperately wants to win a championship, or at least have an opportunity to win a championship. And, well, that's not guaranteed. That's going to happen, obviously. So thanks so much for the text. Appreciate you. We'll close out with a call from Raider Gino in Bakersfield. Man, we had multiple Bakersfield represented today. He's calling for a few different reasons. Tyler Lindenbaum, Maxx Crosby, international games, and the number of games in general in the regular season. Here's Raider Gino in Bakersfield.
Thank you, Raider Gino Guido calling from Bakersfield. Just listening to Tuesday's show. Have a couple thoughts on Lindenbaum. One thing the Raiders need to impress upon him is the more money he'll get in Nevada as opposed to New York / New Jersey or Maryland. No state income taxes. I remember when Mac wanted $22 million and the Raiders $20. I don't think his agent did him any favors because $20 million in Nevada is more take-home pay than $22 million in Illinois. Anyway, next topic, Crosby. You're right. I'm really tired of this topic. I wish Max would put an end to the discussion. I'm tired of hearing Jack Wagon say, well, do right by Max. Blah. Max has been part of this team too. He signed the extension and wants to guarantee he wins the Super Bowl going somewhere else. Only one team a year wins it. Finally, NFL. I think the NFL effed up when they only added one additional game. I can't stand an odd number of games, especially for a team like the Raiders who are trying to improve. I remember when Gruden 1.0 got us to 8-8, and it felt better being a 500 team as opposed to a losing team if you're 8-9. Dumb. Also, enough of the international games in regular season. Save that crap for preseason. LOL. Thank you. Have a great day, buddy, and go Raiders.
Man, Bakersfield represent today. Shout out to Raider Gino. Shout out to Fred from Bakersfield. Definitely appreciate that. As far as Linderbaum goes, I think what they need to do is back the Brinks truck up to his front door, let him get in it like, Scrooge McDuck back in the day. Remember when he used to swim around in the back of the Brinks truck and all his money? I think that's what they need to allow Tyler Lindenbaum to do. Just take the Brinks truck, fill it up with money, drop it off, and say, here you go, brother. It's all yours. Send the change. Bring me the change. Whatever it is. Like, they don't have to know what it is. Whatever the change is, just go ahead and drop it off. You go back and drive the Brinks truck back to the facility, and whatever you have left over, I guess we'll take back. You know what I mean? That's just, they need to go ahead and feel free to overspend for that guy. As far as the odd games go, don't worry about it. 18's on the way. Once they had 17, 18 was inevitable. I don't know how quickly it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. In the international games, you might not like them, but they're going to keep happening as well. At some point, I don't know when it's going to happen. I might not be covering the league anymore. Probably won't be doing this podcast at this point anymore, but there'll be an international game for every team. Like, every team throughout the course of the year will have at least one international game. Like I said, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, maybe 5-6 years from now, but it's on the way. The NFL wants that international market. They want to be global. They want to be worldwide. They already are all year long, right? They used to be a 6-month on, 6-month off. Now it's all year long, 12 months, 365, all the time. The NFL never sleeps. So, yeah, they're going international for sure. So thanks so much for that call. Definitely appreciate it. That's going to do it for today's show. Got a text from Tony and Clayton. We'll get that tomorrow. We got more calls. We'll have plenty more news and notes as we get closer and closer to the legal tampering period, which comes up on Monday, and then the new league year that opens up on Wednesday. So until then, Raider Nation, until tomorrow, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.